attention to that man behind the curtain.
At last, welcome. It's an honor. We have little time and much to see.
It must be awfully important, like a party or something. Mr. Rabbit, wait!
No, I'm overdue. I'm really in a stew. No time to say goodbye. Hello, I'm late.
My.
This video is flawed in many ways. Don't lose the forest in the trees. Focus on the message, not the messenger. Look beyond what is being pointed at. First, a look at the map. Maps are a friend, but the map is not the territory. Default framework versus alternative framework. Self, other, and ideal. Versus true self and true ideal. Earning trust and respect. Connecting Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and Willy Wonka. Allies, the unknown, and direct experience. Unification of will and ideal. Deficiencies, deceptions, illusions, and know thyself. Authenticity and conscience. Offerings going forward. Hesitancy from the perspective of the default framework. A call to adventure. Relativity and teaser trailer. Explained. Thumbnail explained. Bonus. Wrap up. It's dangerous to go alone.
Take this. It will guide and protect you.
Down we go.
We're in.
Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, how does a core belief influence the perception and interpretation of reality? Let's use this image. The geocentric model represents one perspective. The information available at the time was forced to work within a particular framework to align with the core belief that the Earth was at the center of the universe.
It's true. It's not true.
As a result, irregularities were observed that could not be explained, and many simply adopted the framework without applying much doubt.
I doubt if any of us will get out of here alive.
Oh, you should never doubt what nobody is sure about.
The heliocentric model represents another perspective. With the acquisition of more advanced interpretive tools, the new framework, with the adoption of the sun as the center of the solar system, smoothed out the irregularities and a more harmonious architecture was revealed. While even more advanced interpretive tools have revealed elliptical orbits, the key is an ever-improving toolset of interpretation, with one underlying guiding principle: truth, reality independent of bias, represented by the revelation of improved balance and harmony within the system. Question: if a modern mission into space was necessary for the survival of the species, would we ever consider placing our trust within the geocentric model? No.
That is correct. The medulla oblongata.
Mama
The medulla oblongata.
That would require us to ignore known truth, thus allowing for a higher probability of failure. Human history has crafted a variety of advanced interpretive tools. Why then do some individuals go their entire lives with low-quality, problematic frameworks and resulting perspectives? How can their desire to ignore or blame others for the chaos they perceive be explained or justified?
Ignorance is bliss.
Is it simply an avoidance of voluntary discomfort? The discomfort associated with questioning strongly held beliefs that serve as the foundation of identity, and the discomfort associated with the reckoning of resulting implications? I have bad news. Identity and framework are directly connected, and transformation of identity requires the sacrifice of beliefs for the sake of truth. Is it selfish to deny an appropriate sacrifice that would increase order in a world of chaos? Is it appropriate to pursue self-preservation at all costs? Isn't the pursuit of immortality a trait of the dark side? While a lifetime may be spent defending a chaos-filled perspective, it comes at the cost of balance and harmony for the individual and everyone they cross paths with. So when it comes to the framework you use to interpret reality, has it been properly tested and measured to determine if it is the best tool for you to reach your full potential, to bring about the identity necessary for you to achieve your true form?
You think that's air you're breathing now?
Let's see. False beliefs are problematic when they prevent one from achieving desired goals or ideals. It seems evident that as greater truth is integrated into identity, which is composed of held beliefs, one will become more capable of achieving desired outcomes, as is often the case when working with more accurate information. One will also become aware of a higher consciousness ideal because of this increased truth integration. Let's break down identity a bit. Identity requires a distinction between self and other. Why is this? Experience must be differentiated to navigate reality in the pursuit of a goal or ideal. Question: what is the difference between self and other? Self, the union of elements as body, sensations, emotions, and thoughts, all relative to held beliefs, that typically constitutes the individuality and identity of a person. Anything not considered an element of self is categorized as other. Self and other combined represent everything within experience. Other includes, but is not limited to, family, friends, community, and world. It also includes all preferences and beliefs not held by self. To be selfish is to demonstrate a self-bias relative to other, To be selfless is to demonstrate other bias relative to self. Ideal is that which satisfies one's conception of perfection. Ask yourself, is there a difference between where you currently find yourself and where you would put yourself given the freedom? This form of ideal is formulated by self and/or other, meaning it contains significant bias and/or requires domination to enforce a preference. So again, we differentiate to navigate, to ensure the successful pursuit of base needs, to ensure survival. The differentiation between self and other has been useful and has contributed to our success. But once we work up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we are no longer primarily motivated by the pursuit of self-deficiency satiation. We develop higher ideals, higher pursuits. This begins to include an expansion of identity and an increased consideration of the future and the potential contained within it. Question: what factor can we integrate within our identity that allows for a willing expansion of self? Love. What does it mean to love? Is loving something to value it equal to self? Is love a willingness to integrate what was previously recognized as other with self, to unite as one? Is it demonstrated through a sacrifice of bias and a loss of motivation to dominate? Stable and consistent love produces a balanced and harmonious relationship, as both sides are equally considered, now as one, during the pursuit of a mutually formulated true ideal. Does a maximum truth identity function the same as a maximum love identity? What happens to the chasm between self and other as greater and greater truth is integrated into the identity? As integration occurs, there is a reduction of bias, as truth and bias are inversely proportional. Progression requires an integration of truth. Let's look at an approximation of what we are progressing towards with an ever-increasing truth integration. Capitalized self, representing true self. A self-perpetuating, balanced and harmonious unification of self and other, with a simultaneously balanced and harmonious unification of present and potential. This results in a dynamic consideration of all, with the ability to be without or with appropriate bias during the pursuit of truth.
Remember, a Jedi can feel the Force flowing through him.
You mean it controls your actions?
Partially, but it also obeys your commands.
Knowing and aspiring to this approximately perfect formulation of true self provides a metric from which to determine the relative difference between it and our current state. This increases self-awareness, thus allowing for increased opportunities for realignment, should it be recognized that we are off the truth-oriented path. Capitalized ideal represents true ideal. This true ideal is formulated by one aspiring to the balanced and harmonious true self, a mode of being highly grounded and influenced by truth. Can you begin to see the qualitative difference between an ideal formulated by self and/or other and a true ideal formulated by true self? Does this mode of being appear to be a quality approximation of true form? Is the true self equivalent to being one? Does the path of truth, love, and unity orient us relative to oneness? All important questions. Now that we have begun to contextualize some key terms and symbols, let us discuss trust and respect. It's understood that trust and respect require time to establish, as they should be earned and not casually given. But I will point out that the beginnings of trust and respect have been earned in short order before. It is often achieved within stories and film by a character who rescues the hero when they are in grave peril. Great examples of this archetype: Aragorn from Lord of the Rings and Obi-Wan Kenobi from the original Star Wars. Allies. Both Aragorn and Obi-Wan watch the hero from afar before stepping in to rescue them. Both possess a greater understanding of reality than the hero, demonstrating a greater connection to truth. They provide guidance, as both Aragorn and Obi-Wan are familiar and capable of surviving within the unknown territories the hero has found themselves in. They prepare the hero for the adventure to come. Dreaming of the unknown. The Willy Wonka film provides its own presentation of this same archetype. Unexplored territory is simultaneously full of potential threats and potential treasures. It serves as a playground of the imagination. When Charlie finds himself in a position of choice through the discovery of a coin, he follows his heart into the candy shop, a place full of wonder and mystery, which up until this moment he had only ever peeked into from the outside, just like Frodo daydreaming of what lies beyond the Shire, and Luke daydreaming of exploring the galaxy. Ally. Inside the candy shop, Charlie finds himself in unexplored territory, and demonstrates an inability to fully utilize this power of choice.
I'd like a bar of chocolate, please.
What kind? A Slugworth Sizzler? Wonka Scrumdiddlyumptious?
Whichever's the biggest.
Try a Wonka Scrumdiddlyumptious.
The Candyman rescues Charlie from the chaos of uncertainty and provides guidance. Charlie lacks a trustworthy judgment system, as he lacks the direct experience necessary to differentiate which chocolate is the best choice according to his ideal, which would represent his connection to truth. Truth is always best acquired through direct experience, as it is the best teacher.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what is. You have to see it for yourself.
Will. A tool with variable relative strength. A tool used to actualize, to make real, to turn potential into reality. Will is used to actualize the true ideal. Strength of will within one domain does not always translate to strength of will within another. Also note here, will exists in a mechanical form and a conscious form. To react automatically to stimuli is to use will mechanically. Therefore, the individual wielding will is mechanical. If an individual always reacts automatically, this is equivalent to being a machine. The ability to consciously utilize will instead of reacting automatically is a trait of the true self. This requires an opportunity for choice awareness, and for best results, the choice should be relative to the true ideal, as opposed to self-preservation. No choice opportunity results in automatic pathing. Charlie possesses a respectively developed will when it comes to actualizing for others. It developed as a consequence of his father's death and his own willingness to accept responsibility. He accepted the burden of providing for his family. Actualization. Charlie asks for the biggest chocolate bar, and the Candyman gives him a Wonka Scrumdiddlyumptious bar, which Charlie eats so fast the Candyman remarks,
Hey, take it easy. You'll get a stomachache if you swallow it like that.
For the first time in his life, Charlie was able to actualize a personal dream or ideal, materially represented by the affording and eating of a chocolate bar. The seemingly insatiable hunger demonstrated by Charlie represents a severe deficiency for actualization of potential, based on his own ideals. Up to this point, he has been selflessly using his will to provide or actualize for others, but for the first time, he was able to utilize it for himself. Charlie successfully utilized his will to unite with the ideal formulated by self. But what if what Charlie truly wanted was to exist and operate within truth, thus allowing him the opportunity to unite with his true ideal, the attainment of a golden ticket? What prevents us from operating with the framework of the balanced and harmonious true self, that which allows for the formulation and vision of the true ideal? We need to know this because only from this truer mode of being is one able to formulate and unite with the true ideal. So again, what prevents us from operating with a framework closer to the balanced and harmonious true self? Corruption. As a result of the infiltration of bias. The infiltration of bias results in bias within the framework. Bias of self over other, or bias of other over self. Bias of the present over potential, or bias of potential over the present, resulting in a non-dynamic consideration of biased self and or other during the pursuit of deficiency alleviation. Charlie's decision to choose the biggest chocolate bar was a compensation grounded in deficiency. Charlie's corrupted framework set the most important criterion as size. Here is the danger. When perception is highly influenced by self-deficiency, the framework you are operating from is compromised. This was proven when Charlie chose the biggest chocolate bar as opposed to a Wonka bar. I will provide the reasoning for this soon. But for Charlie, the size of the bar was subconsciously believed to provide the complementary condition to his deficiency, as though it was a material deficiency of chocolate, when in actuality, he suffers from a deficiency of truth. Keys. Also notice how Charlie required an additional element in combination with his existing will to unite with his ideal, the coin. The coin is equivalent to a key that the hero finally acquires and can now unlock and pass through the barrier that had previously served as a limiting factor for the actualization of his ideal. In Star Wars, Luke also required a key in addition to his will to get off Tatooine. The key for Luke was the money gained from selling his land speeder. Luke would have been limited to his default planet, representing his default framework, if his attachment to his most valuable possession was too great. A warning to be aware of the influence and potential limitations associated with your attachments, not just materially, but also regarding your beliefs. Truthful actualization equals self-actualization. The Candyman also provided a wise warning to our hero, a warning to be cautious when practicing the art of actualization, as one cannot see over the horizon to the future. There is no knowledge of the associated consequences to this actualization until they are directly experienced. Only then can a sequence or pattern be partially established, but even then, there is always chaos in the equation. This points to the general dangers of reckless actualization. Question: how dangerous is it to actualize when fueled by selfish motivations, without the appropriate consideration of unintended consequences? For Charlie, this would be represented by a stomachache. Again, this is unintentional, self-created suffering in the future due to blindness in the present, an unconscious bias towards the present. What is a more truthful style of actualization? Truth-oriented actualization, aka self-actualization, that which is approaching a non-biased nature and grounded in truth. This is extremely relevant in our world's current landscape, where an arms race is currently underway, both in terms of individual and technological desires for supremacy. The risk is portrayed in many films by a rushed adoption of technology because of the striving of a few for immediate gratification, while failing to balance consideration of the future and its potential. The irony is not lost on me that I will attempt to utilize these same technologies to spread this message. It's almost as if a tool is neutral in the absolute sense, and the quality of associated conscience is the true matter in question. Notice, if Charlie were to have asked for a Wonka bar instead of the biggest chocolate available, he would have discovered the golden ticket on his first attempt. Why didn't he? If you remember, the final ticket had been reported as claimed at this point in the film, but as we know, this would turn out to be a falsehood. Charlie was operating under the deception of all the tickets having been found, and under the influence of self-deficiency, both fueled by bias. Under these conditions, Charlie was unknowingly, ignorantly, navigating against his true ideal, away from his true North Star, against his obtainment of a golden ticket, away from the guiding principle of self-actualization, and was instead navigating according to his self-deficiency, which in material terms was associated with the biggest chocolate bar. Charlie was working with false external information and under biased internal conditions.
Do you see now? Yeah, I see. Oh, God.
Do you see? He had essentially given up on his true ideal of finding a golden ticket because he allowed the world to tell him it couldn't be done, and he believed it.
Do you see? Please, no.
No? No what?
Not me. Not me.
He was operating within ignorance, as a golden ticket was still available, and as a result, lost sight of his guiding star that points true north. The importance of operating under truth cannot be understated. How does the true self, that which we are aspiring to, assist us in reality navigation? By connecting and communicating through conscience. Conscience attempts to make one aware of truth, attempts to reduce bias, to oppose ignorance, to moralize decisions, to reintroduce or strengthen the true ideal. The true ideal is equivalent to a true North Star. The conscience, again the messenger of truth, serves to assist in reality navigation by moralizing each opportunity, each choice, each binary as right or wrong, thus allowing for a simplistic navigation tool relative to the true ideal. How established is your connection with conscience? Have you differentiated it from other experiences within your awareness? Please recognize, a consistently present, high-quality conscience requires a consistently present, high-quality knowing of self. Notice how operating under deception is equivalent to navigating by a false North Star, or worshiping a false idol. This leads you astray and off course from actualizing the true ideal. This is why it's so important to do all the work necessary to know the true conditions of self, the true conditions of other, and the true relationship between them. All this leads to a core principle: know thyself. If you know what this picture is from.
You're cool.
Operating under deception. The false news report that the final golden ticket had been found serves as a warning to not blindly believe socially constructed news, as the source of this article was a selfish person whose goal was deception. Since the deception was related to such a hot topic, the information disseminated quickly without proper verification, as the selfish see emotionality as a potent fuel for a wildfire of profit. Remember, maintain appropriate skepticism and do your best to know thyself so you can operate truthfully despite internal and external influences grounded in selfishness. Authenticity. Beware labeling anything authentic as wrong. Authenticity is a measure of the real, also known as reality. The real is the true state of being, not what we wish something was, but actuality. To become aware of the authentic can be scary and painful, as some truths are.
Welcome to the desert of the real.
Use the direct experience of an authentic expression, regardless if it results in a perfect outcome, to calculate the distance between intentionality and actuality. This gap represents the true state or strength of the will, the tool we use to realize potential, to actualize the true ideal. We don't rise to the level of our expectations, we fall to the level of our training. Remember, it is impossible to purposefully improve something if there is no metric for growth. Conscience as saving grace. As Charlie leaves the candy store, you can see by the expression on his face that he is having an internal experience. I make the claim that conscience has presented itself to him. The benefit of overcoming a deficiency is a much greater state of open-mindedness immediately following its satiation. This should be recognized as an opportunity window. If this window is not used for an opportunity of choice, another self-deficiency will take its place quickly as the new ideal. The relative difference between a compulsory state of being and a suddenly free and open state of being creates the conditions necessary for greater self-awareness. This is very similar to the concept of post-nut clarity. This open-mindedness and clarity allows for greater dynamic consideration of all, as there has been a significant reduction of bias. This new non-compulsive open-minded state created the conditions necessary for Charlie to make contact with and receive a message from his conscience. The message may have presented in the form of a thought or memory of when his grandfather spent his own tobacco money to give Charlie an opportunity for the golden ticket. As a demonstration of appropriate consideration of other, and therefore a balanced and harmonious use of will, Charlie decided to return and ask for a bar, not for himself, but for his grandfather. And let it be known, if it were his intention to avoid shame for a knowingly selfish act, he would simply not make his family aware that he had found the coin. But for Charlie, he lives in a world of conscience. He would know the truth, and therefore be forced to carry that burden.
Jerusalem has no need of a perfect nut.
No. It is a kingdom of conscience. Or nothing.
His motivational structure is strongly influenced by the consideration of other, and this happens to be another key that allowed Charlie to achieve the appropriate conditions to find a golden ticket. What is being offered to you? I make no claim of being anything other than a friend who has returned from his own explorations of the unknown with discovered treasure. My purpose is to provide guidance and companionship for you on your own journey to unite the will and true ideal through self-actualization, the art of creation. I wish to support your efforts in bringing balance to the forces pushing and pulling on your experience, your life, your story. Whether we find ourselves as a prisoner of order, or we find ourselves drowning in chaos, we have found ourselves in the middle of a war for the self.
Oh shit. Well, what the hell happened?
I'm trying to warn you. I told you must exercise control of yourself, that it all depended on your mind. All of this. Everything is your creation. And now we're heading towards your true moment of choice.
True moment of choice?
Yes.
What role does free will have to play in this war? It provides a freedom of choice once one has awoken from ignorance and become aware of an opportunity window. Warning: waking up is a significant event. Staying awake requires strength of will. Most will return to sleep and ignorance. We have arrived at the choice between the willing acceptance of responsibility, the responsibility associated with being a hero, one on the path to becoming a self, one who is guided by the force of truth and consciously utilizes will, one who joins the resistance towards the greater good, versus the willful ignorance and avoidance of responsibility, which leads one down the path of becoming mechanical, reacting automatically as opposed to responding consciously, defaulting to the path of least resistance, a self-preservation mechanism, down the path of being an automaton, a machine that performs a function according to a predetermined set of coded instructions, giving only the appearance of free will. Warning: the bias currently found within self and other will automatically attempt to erase or suppress the awareness of this choice in the pursuit of self-preservation.
Have a look at this for me, please. Would you stop that? What?
When we choose to avoid and ignore the responsibility of resisting the automation of self, we become mechanical. We automatically orient ourselves towards any illusion that by appearances alone claims to offer an alleviation from the burden associated with the sense of lack. As an automaton, we willingly operate under deception, a falsehood, guided by a false North Star. We exist within a state or mode of being that has lost connection with conscience, lost contact with the true ideal, lost the ability to actualize a true self. We are asleep to truth. We live a life under the illusion that there are no adventures or golden tickets left to be found in our world, as though they have all been claimed. Under this illusion, gravitational forces find it easier to hold you prisoner. They offer distraction and alleviation from the discomfort associated with the absence of a true ideal. Distractions in the form of consumerism, political theater, and rapid exposure, high novelty, immediate gratification media that often contains confirmation bias. Beware, there is a grave danger in overexposure to media powered by machine algorithms and non-moral generative programs. They are incentivized to create peak novelty, peak symmetry, peak vibrancy.
Were you listening to me, or were you looking at the woman in the red dress?
I was.
Look again.
Not in the pursuit of truth, but for the purpose of consciousness capture. Over time, this influences your framework's beliefs relative to associations, expectations, and value structures, influencing the perception you bring to the real world. Thereby, everything begins to fall short within the real, and you have unknowingly become numb to the subtle sensations capable of pointing to truth within your experience. You have become desensitized as a consequence of overexposure to hyperstimulus. From your existing framework, let me attempt to read general thoughts based on what has been presented thus far. What's being said here makes some sense, and you may have even tasted a hint of truth, but you look around and no one else seems to be living by these principles. Others are grounded in material reality, doing a hard day's work for an honest day's pay. I pass no judgment on this, but ask yourself, if you had the opportunity to join the Star Wars universe, would you voluntarily choose to live life as an undeviating service droid? No.
What is my purpose?
You pass butter.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
You would choose the life of an agent capable of actualizing change in your life, your community, your world, in the cosmos as a hero. I want to help afford you this opportunity, as I also want to contest against the forces that limit your potential. Ever wonder what becomes of those who lack a knowing of self, but possess a strength of will? Those who are denied by self and or other the freedom of actualizing potential? The will actualizes through the dark side, rather than abandoning the art of creation. I will hurt you as you have hurt me is the motto of those seeking revenge, to repay in kind, and the destruction of potential. Distrust all whom the impulse to punish is powerful. Mirroring, a strong human tendency that results in subconscious imitation. Be aware the urge of fighting fire with fire. Change occurs when one can act with consideration, but ultimately independence from the past. There is a freedom in the present moment. Be the change you wish to see in the world. So I warn against shaping yourself, your associations, expectations, and value structures by societal standards alone. While society does provide safety and security, it is designed around the average. Average-sized doorways and average-sized stairs for the average travel of an average person. The average person attaches their self and matches their beliefs to established social constructs. Those that appear to have socially recognized and respected levels of authority and influence are most sought after. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. This is a common outcome for all possessing a deficiency of confidence, of vision, of truth. The safest place to be is at the center of the herd, but consequently, you have zero true agency of movement. You are always hiding in the shadow of this structure. Light cannot grow what it cannot reach. We have found ourselves at another opportunity for choice. Do you stay within the confines of the familiar, the predictable, the safe, or do you continue down the rabbit hole? If you choose to continue, you must voluntarily accept the terms and conditions of the path.
Our way or the highway?
Is your goal self-preservation at all costs?
Fine. Please, Neo, you have to trust me.
Why?
Because you have been down there, Neo. You know that road. You know exactly where it ends. And I know that's not where you want to be.
Who you are may have gotten you to where you are today, but it may not get you to where you want to be. To go wrong in one's own way is better than to go right in someone else's. To maximize the utility of the next portion of this video, the previous 1.5 minute video on this channel is required viewing. Why, you ask? It serves as a key of understanding. The framework you currently perceive reality through will be used to interpret that video, and a sample size of 2 is required for relativity to occur. I ask that you go watch that video and return, as the viewing order is essential. Your initial interpretation of the teaser trailer, combined with this explanation, should create the conditions necessary for metacognition, the awareness and understanding of one's own thought process, with the goal of identifying the mental state associated with the automated and standardized interpretation strategy of your default framework. Exposure to a secondary interpretation makes one aware of a relative difference in perception. This relativity will trigger cognitive and emotional reactions, as it represents other relative to self, other perspectives and beliefs that may conflict with your default framework in terms of identity and held beliefs. If you possess sufficient tolerance, open-mindedness, and awareness, the truest goal here is to create the conditions necessary for meta-awareness. Meta-awareness being a state of deliberate attention as an observer toward the content and structure of your consciousness. Awareness of the dynamics and conflicts occurring on the level of content, beliefs, structures, frameworks, and metastructure, identity or mode of being, the idea of media, symbols, sensory information, and experience in general being much more open to interpretation than was previously considered is the goal here. I wish to call into question your default framework and the associations, expectations, and value structure within it. Default framework versus creator intentions. A default framework potentially contains incomplete or corrupted associations, expectations, and value structures. What if a creator put something before you and a bias blinded you from seeing it? What if the absolute creator laid something in front of you, but your non-self-created, default framework was oblivious to it. There's a biblical story of God telling a man he will visit him this night. The man prepares and awaits. During the night, on 3 different occasions, a stranger knocks on the man's door, but the man turns each away as he feels he must be prepared for God's visit. When the sun rises, the man in disappointment asks God, "Why? Why did you not visit me?" God tells the man he made 3 different attempts and was turned away each time.
You don't believe in the Force, do you?
Kid, I've flown from one side of this galaxy to the other. I've seen a lot of strange stuff, but I've never seen anything to make me believe there's one all-powerful force controlling everything. There's no mystical energy field controls my destiny.
There is a grave danger in an unquestioned framework. The initial shot, intended to convey a test of fortune for the viewer, as the privilege to connect with a creator whose art so precisely points to the absolute, would be a great honor. Have you ever found yourself in such a position by pure happenstance? Is it possible to achieve this qualification without direct effort of will? Have you done the work necessary to feel worthy of such an honor? Have you done your part to meet fate in the middle? In this moment, for this opportunity, yes, you have. You willfully open this video, just as Charlie willfully opened the Wonka bar.
You see? You can do it.
I call it luck.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
It's not simply an issue of being at the right place at the right time. It's actualization using both freedom and the ability to demonstrate appropriate will at the appropriate place and at the appropriate time. Was it destiny? Default framework. Associations and expectations. The video then transitions to the revered creator Wonka. Initial impressions and associations lead one to establish expectations. After all, anyone we have ever seen move at that speed and in that style has never proven to be the embodiment of vitality. It is then natural for us to extrapolate our expectations and assign a value to this person based on how we feel this person can contribute to our goals, our hopes, and our dreams. But what is this? A deception is revealed. Our expectations were not met. We made the mistake of judging based on appearances. Wonka has now revealed that eyes alone cannot be the judge of truth. Wonka also set a precedent that when he is around, things are not as they seem. A few warnings. Beware living solely in the world of material forms, of navigating by surface level appearances alone. Beware overutilizing preconceptions when navigating unexplored territory. Undefined and uncategorized elements of experience lay ahead.
The snozberries taste like snozberries.
Snozberries? Whoever heard of a snozberry?
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
So pay close attention. You may miss something. Eager beaver. Transitioning to the lobby of the factory, Wonka is eager to get underway, to share his secrets, his creations. To fully experience the delight of creation is to share it with other. The contract. Based on initial appearances, the contract attempts to eliminate Wonka from being held responsible for any negative outcome that may occur within the tour. But there is an intent to clarify the essence of the contract as personal responsibility and the pursuit of truth at all costs. They live. To reveal the essence of the contract, a reference to the 1988 John Carpenter film They Live was made. In the film, an unnamed drifter discovers special sunglasses that reveal subliminal messages. Subliminal messages are sensory stimuli that exist beneath an individual's threshold for conscious perception. One of the children calls out,
I can't see what it says in the bottom.
This is a reference to the term bottom line. The bottom line represents the underlying or ultimate outcome or criterion, aka the essence. In this case, the contestants are unable to read the bottom line of the contract due to the limitations of their default frameworks. Danger. It is a trap to get lost in the content of things. The content of this contract is composed of arbitrary elements. It's all about the structure and what the structure is pointing to. It's the meta perspective, above and beyond. The essence. Inserted message. Agree to pursue truth at all costs to yourself. At all costs to yourself is the key. While contestants possess strength of will, most are eventually disqualified for failure to prioritize truth, demonstrated through acts of selfishness. Of note here, self was capitalized in the teaser trailer, but for the sake of consistency within this video, it should not have been. At all costs to yourself. Self, as previously established, is essentially all held beliefs that constitute the individuality and identity of a person. Worst case scenario is a self operating with a self-preservation at all costs mode of being. Identity should always be evolving through the awareness, acceptance, and integration of revealed truth. Truth may require a cost to self, a sacrifice of beliefs related to identity. This includes the self's perception of other, in terms of consideration, valuation, and construction. The self is not inclined to interpret others as they truly are. The self constructs others family, friends, community, and the world as needed to best serve self-bias. In the clip from They Live, the subliminal messages were visually minimalistic. Here, a golden W was added to the message. This was intended to imply the intentionality and level of sophistication being utilized by Wonka, the creator. Even when viewed from a perspective that allowed the essential truth to be recognized, it still contained his mark. It shows his level of craftsmanship and attention to detail on all levels of resolution. Blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear.
Sign here.
Hold it. Let me through here, you kids.
Violet, baby, don't you sign anything. Standard form of contract. Don't talk to me about contracts, Wonka. I use them myself. They're strictly for suckers. I don't sign anything without my lawyer.
My broker don't sign anything either.
Contracts. The adults protest the mandatory contract as they have preconceptualized contracts as a potential threat. Why do they consider contracts to be a cause of concern? The salesman admits to using them as a tool for the purpose of personal profit, of selfishness. He uses them to trick and trap others into agreeing or living in accordance with his selfish ideal, and as a result, this has produced suspicion within him. The adults demand a lawyer inspect the contract before they are willing to sign. This shows a desire to hand off the responsibility of judgment to others, as they do not trust their own ability to assess the situation as an individual case and decide on the truth of the matter. They do not trust their own judgment system. How can you successfully navigate reality if you are unable to use your own judgment system to identify truth? The responsibility of creating a high-quality judgment system, a component of will, is required for successful navigation within both the world of forms and the formless. To learn to see, to accustom to calmness, to patience, and allow things to come up to it, to defer judgment, to acquire the habit of approaching and grasping an individual case from all sides. This is the first preparatory schooling of intellectuality. One must not respond immediately to a stimulus. One must acquire a command of the obstructing and isolating instincts. Willingness. The children are highly motivated by potential treasure and are more than willing to sign the contract as they do not possess the same limiting preconceptions as the adults. While appropriate for this occasion, as Wonka is benevolent, it's dangerous in a world where wolves hide in sheep's clothing. Again, a high-quality judgment system is imperative for a hero venturing into the unknown. The children's willingness to venture forth while throwing caution to the wind is indicative of the Fool card in the tarot. The Fool is symbolic of a joyful soul who is clueless about what they will soon encounter. This cluelessness can be beneficial. If a potential hero is too suspicious or fearful, they will never venture forth. Default framework, value structure. Beware the costs associated with over-attachment to the material and to beliefs. There is danger in becoming risk-averse and defensive. A chance of loss often feels more significant than an equivalent win. Remember, a corrupted value structure results in self-deception, navigating under a falsehood, a false North Star. It will cost you the freedom necessary to actualize in accordance with a true ideal. A poor vision of the potential treasure kneecaps motivation to take appropriate risks and make appropriate sacrifices.
Then you don't go in. I'm sorry, rules of the house.
Rules of the house and order. The journey must be agreed to voluntarily through a demonstration of will. Otherwise, you cannot proceed.
Clever.
What about me, Grandpa?
Sign away, Charlie. We got nothing to lose.
Acknowledging and accepting the terms of service justifies the expulsion of any participant and validates the support of reasoning, selfishness. But note, Wonka does not disqualify the participants disqualify themselves. They break the agreement of self-sacrifice. Self-sabotage much? Lock and key. I had a lot to say about this part, but I'm going to save it for future videos. Transition to the Matrix. This part will remain self-explanatory. I'm excited to continue working on my Matrix project. Bonus. The thumbnail, if successful, attracted an audience into this video. The structure was designed to resonate with you even if it was not fully understood. The wrapped, descending Wonka bars were used to represent infinite potential. After all, we don't know which possesses a golden ticket. Moving up the golden pyramid, or is it a yellow brick road? The next tier shows 7 silver bars in hand, representing contained potential. This represents us all, existing in a constant state of potential, just like Schrodinger's cat experiment. We don't know what truth is contained until we look inside. The next tier shows 3 bars being opened. The act of opening, the adventure into unknown territory, fueled by will. This is the cutting edge of exploration and discovery. Potential is maximized here. The golden ticket at the top of the hierarchy, serving as the North Star on the journey up the yellow brick road, the true ideal and symbol of successful actualization. The mystery bonus is an unofficial soundtrack. The order is recommended.